Welcome back. The 2023-2024 NBA season previews. Today we're going to be going over the Brooklyn Nets, but first I'm here with my man, Jiarmani. What's going on, man?
Oh my goodness. I am very excited to talk about Brooklyn. It's
You don't sound excited.
I, the reason being is that I am being a I'm being optimistic, but
Okay.
like kind of regrettingly a little bit because like I want to see this team do good,
Okay.
but also it's also Brooklyn. Fuck Brooklyn.
Ooh.
I could no, but also that you shouldn't carry that a lot of weight because I say fuck Miami, I say fuck the Lakers, all that. Hey. You no. We had no. Like I promise you, we're probably gonna see Miami in the postseason again. We're some way down the line, and I've been dealing. I'm going on a little rant, a little 30-second rant. The amount of bullshit I've seen on fucking X or Twitter or whatever the one you want to see after that. Ever since we lost you guys last year, I'm not. I'm again. Don't allow me when I say fuck. Put a team here. Don't take it with a whole lot of weight because I say fuck every other team that isn't the Celtics right now.
Fair enough.
Anyways, with Brooklyn, I wouldn't want to even say fuck Brooklyn. It's more like fuck the Brooklyn fans when they had KD and that whole big three over there, and you guys didn't do shit. All right,
Ooh.
So I had more fun watching Brooklyn when it was a different culture over there when it came with like D'Lo and the rest of those guys. So that's a lot of stuff we can dive into with Brooklyn here, but I am excited. I'll say that. So like because I don't want to put any sort of personal bias in it because I'm excited to see what this team can do.
No bias, but F Brooklyn.
Respectfully, fuck Brooklyn.
Respectfully. Yeah, Jiarmani coming in spicy.
Hell yeah.
Spicy with the Brooklyn Nets. They went 45-37 last year, although that is a little bit skewed. They did trade Kyrie, Irving, and Kevin Durant. The trade deadline for a collection of players, too, including Mikal Bridges, who was probably one of the better young two-way wings in the entire league, and Cam Johnson, who is like a good 3-and-D. I mean, he can score multiple levels, but he's mostly known as like a 3-and-D wing. Very efficient. Had a rough summer though. They were 23rd in offense, 17th in defense after the trade deadline. They went 12-15. They got ousted by the Philadelphia 76ers. I think they got swept in the first round of the playoffs. They lost Yuta Watanabe. They traded Patty Mills and they traded Joe Harris. But they did get Dennis Smith Jr. They did get Lonnie Walker. Like, what was your kind of takeaway from last season after the trade deadline? Because that's really kind of the scope of the team that we're looking at. And what is kind of your upcoming, like, where are you at with them? What they did this offseason, where are you at with them for this upcoming season? I'm stuttering all over the place. I apologize.
Hey, no, I'm coming in hot, and like they probably threw you off your game a little bit. Don't even worry. It took a second. But anyways, with Brooklyn, you got like it's weird because it seems like they had to do a hard left turn from what they initially saw this team being around this time a few years ago. When you think about it, when you get Kyrie Irving and you got Kevin Durant as your next superstar duo, and then I think at the end of that year you trade for James Harden or at some point it was one of those trade deadlines between it was like 2019 2020 2020 something. Anyways, and then you got the big three, and then Harden's the first one out the door because he spends not even, I think, a collective of 1 year in Brooklyn, and those guys barely played, I think, even at least like 10 games with all three of them healthy, or maybe probably over exaggerating that. But Harden goes to Philadelphia. Then at the deadline, you trade Kyrie to the Mavericks, and you trade KD to the Suns, and then you get back Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, a bunch of other guys, Ben Simmons included. Obviously, I'll get to him a little later, but pretty much, I feel like one of those guys was going to be bound to take a leap because somebody's going to have to score, and that was Mikal Bridges. And just seeing all the kind of the radiation from that trade deadline nuke that they gave us, pretty much what that Brooklyn team was having to deal with. Like, that Brooklyn team was on the come up. Those guys, when they had D'Angelo Russell and Karis LeVert and like those guys who were hungry, they were young, and they were just getting out of the gutter from that Celtics trade that landed the Celtics Brown and Tatum. And like those guys were miserable. Like that team, that organization was miserable because they had pretty much no future for like those next couple of years, and you just had Brooke Lopez being your 20-point per game scorer, and then you guys try to fully invest in trying to get the best team on the floor and the best team money can buy, and it doesn't work out. And it's interesting because those guys could have easily made an NBA Finals if Kevin Durant had maybe a shoe size less than like one. Like if his shoe was just one size smaller, those guys won the NBA Finals because potentially. But again, I like respect to Atlanta and what they did that year, but I don't think they were beating a team led by Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. But obviously Kyrie got hurt, so I can't again. So potentially that's a good way to put it.
And Harden was banged up with the hamstring.
Harden was banged up, absolutely. But I think Kyrie probably could have found his way back because I think he was only like a sprained ankle, and I think they probably could have used. I think they would have been fine, and I think they probably would have beat a Phoenix Suns team if that was the case. But again, that's neither here or there because the guys didn't even make the fucking NBA Finals to begin with. Anyways, but then you take this drastic shift because pretty much it was a failed experiment. It was a failed experiment of the big three. And to be honest, it kind of set them back a little bit. But at least for this team going into the season, there's a lot more. There's not a whole lot to be optimistic about because I don't think this team's going to be very good potentially. But you're going to get a full season of Mikal Bridges, and he was averaging 26 points per game when he got to Brooklyn. So I think he may not be a 26 point per game scorer, but I think that's going to be what we're going to be accustomed to because he's entering the prime of his career now. He turned 27 years old. So you're going to have Mikal Bridges being that guy for you on that offensive end. And then you got Nick Claxton. That guy's really starting to come into his own a little bit. Like the fact that you traded all like the superstar veterans that you had is allowed like the young guys and kind of like the more like unknowns while those guys were there to kind of start taking a little bit of a step up.
Yeah. Yeah, and just some like housekeeping notes. You mentioned Nick Claxton entering the last year of his deal without an extension. Royce O'Neal entering the last year of his deal. He was kind of like a veteran guy who, I mean, he could be a guy that you could bring in off the bench if you're a team who's contending. Spencer Dinwiddie, one of the guys they acquired in the Kyrie deal last year, he and Dorian Finney-Smith. Dinwiddie is also entering the last year of the deal. So I'm just browsing through these contracts while I'm looking at it, as well as like, again, they signed Lonnie Walker to a minimum deal in the offseason. They signed Dennis Smith Jr., who I like, who I thought did a good job of rebuilding his value as an NBA player in Charlotte last season to a 1 year minimum deal. So it's like they have guys like, I mean, they re-signed Cam Johnson in the offseason. Obviously, Bridges is making, I think, pennies on the dollar for what he's actually worth. I think he's on like a current like 4 for $90. He should be getting more than that. And whenever he's extension eligible, which I think will probably be in a couple of years, he deserves that back. He deserves more money. Not even just for what he did in Phoenix, which he was an incredibly impactful centerpiece to what they were doing. I think that's in Phoenix. He also is their number one guy here in Brooklyn, and I think he's going to continue being their number one guy unless if they go all in for someone, which I don't know exactly why they would do that right now. And so that there's that. I mean, they also I think have like, it's not their own picks, but they have a collection of draft picks, right? I think they have Phoenix's.
Yeah, I think because Phoenix I think there was a lot of draft capital that got back for that Kevin Durant trade.
I'm trying to like remember on the fly, but they have like a collection of guys like Bridges, like Nick Claxton if they choose to extend them, like Cam Johnson, maybe Benson, like maybe that's like a big maybe, but like they have guys that they can like build around if they want to. And so I think they're in a decent spot right now. I think they're going to be a little more active at the deadline with maybe potentially selling guys than we might think, but I don't know who exactly. Again, I mentioned Royce O'Neal. I mentioned Dinwiddie. They might be trying to get more draft capital for them and maybe a couple assets. But like, I guess, where do you see their season outlook right now in terms of like, do you think they're a play-in team? Do you think they're a playoff team? Like, where's your head kind of at with that?
I would say that this team is, I feel, like you're gonna get from Mikal Bridges, from guys like Cam Johnson, and like you're gonna have contributors and most of these guys in the lineup, the guys you just mentioned. And I think it's very contingent on Ben Simmons and how he's going to go and how good of a season he's gonna have. Because I made an article just the other day, and I said if Ben Simmons
Please go
can
check that
become
out, by the way.
yes,
VanetteSportsMedia.com.
yes. Ben Simmons, he had a whole interview and everything. So he like Nets fans have a sense to be optimistic about Ben Simmons. But I said if this guy can be a key contributor on this Nets team, the Nets at the very least are a playing team, are fighting for a playing spot. And I said that Ben Simmons can like we know what we're gonna get from Ben Simmons. Like at his very best, this dude's a triple double threat, and like he's gonna be able to guard 1 through 5. And I feel for me is that just look at preseason. Like he's putting up like kind of like Rajon Rondo numbers a little bit, averaging like getting like 8 points, getting like 6 rebounds to 9 or 10 assists. He wants to pass the ball. He's like, again, I think this guy should be more aggressive and trying to learn the damn jump shot. I'm not even saying a 3-pointer, but look at him when he played in summer league. This dude was taking step back fades and like letting it shoot from like at the elbow and stuff like that. Even if you became something like that, this guy would be one of the better players in the league. But like as long as they like, if Ben Simmons can be a little bit more comfortable with the ball in his hands and actually get a full season out of him again, it's going to make the lives easier for Mikal Bridges and some of these other guys, both on the offensive and defensive side. Like look at Mikal. Like Mikal, his scoring went up, but from my understanding, his defense took a step back a little bit because he's taking such a big responsibility on the offensive side now.
He's still an elite defender, though.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's bad in any sense of the word, but I'm saying that like Ben Simmons being another guy that you can put on their best player and kind of take that like little bit of a burden off of Mikal. It's only gonna help that team a little, just that much more. And getting guys like Nick Claxton involved, being a little bit of a lob threat, and if Ben Simmons can kind of channel his inner Giannis a little bit and being a little bit more aggressive, going to the basket and all that. If you're not gonna be a jump shooter, you got to be able to do everything else. You got to be great at everything else if you want to survive. At least for Ben Simmons from Ben Simmons' point of view. But even if this guy can flirt around with a triple double on a nightly basis, this team's gonna be a fun team to watch, and it's gonna be a team to look out for.
That's good. That's a high bar.
It is.
It's a high bar.
But that's what I'm saying. It's contingent on, and this is all for me coming from the perspective that Ben Simmons is going to be a key contributor for this team.
Got it. I mean, I liked what I've seen from him. I mean, I don't want to suck myself into like the summer workout videos because we've been getting those for multiple years now, and the results have just been unfruitful for the most part. But I think he has looked like decent in preseason. I mean, again, the shot and the scoring is still like it's still really not there, but he's at least pushing the ball. He's at least looking for guys in transition and stuff like that, to where it's like it's just nice seeing him play basketball again. And I am someone who's like, I was high on Simmons. Like I think I was higher on him towards the end of his Philly tenure. Maybe not like that last like half year he was there, but like I think I was higher on him as like a basketball player those last like couple of full seasons in Philly than the consensus. And like I nothing would make me happier than just watching him play basketball and watching him play basketball at a high level, because I think people just forget how good of a defender he actually is as well. And I'm a sucker for that. And so like I just watching him play basketball again at a high level, watching him being that distributor, being that aggressive force, even if he's not getting to the line a whole lot, just him showing that he wants to get to the rim and is willing to kind of bend those defenses a little bit and create those advantages for not only himself but for his teammates. I want to see that more from him, even if he's only scoring 8, 9, 10 points a game. Like it doesn't have to be something completely drastic. It doesn't have to be like he was averaging 17 a game or whatever it was at the start of his Philly career. Like I just want to see like just a little bit more, and I want to also just see him play 50, 60 games. Like I just want to see that from him, and I don't. Maybe he only plays like whatever. If he plays at least like half the season, I'm good. But I just want to see him play basketball, and so I'm with you. I like what I've seen over the summer. I don't want to suck myself into it too much because we've been bitten by that before. But I do definitely think, like, even if he doesn't play like that many games, and if he's not incredibly productive, I still can kind of see myself, like, I could see this team being like a 9 or 10 seed. Like, I feel like to some people's ears that might be like a low bar considering what happened. Like, but again, they went 12 and 15 after the trade deadline, and that was without Simmons. So maybe with Simmons, they're a 500 team. I don't know. Maybe he helps improve them like that. But like, I could see him getting like 37, 38, 39 wins as like a floor, a solid floor for them.
Yeah.
And their ceiling is probably like 43, 44, 45, like somewhere in that range. There's a degree of variance with them. And again, it also just depends on, like, I know I'm bringing up the deadline with all of these NBA season previews, but like, you have to factor that into some extent with some of these teams.
Yeah.
It's like, again, they have guys who are on expiring deals that they can't flip if they want to. To contenders, especially with like the new second apron and everything. Like, teams are so super limited on what they can trade and what they can't. At least teams who are above that threshold, or at least in the tax, like you have roster building constrictions, and like most of those teams are contenders. So, well, practically all of them are contenders to some extent. So I just wonder like what it looks like for Brooklyn. But I think a good floor for them is like 37, 38 wins. I think that's a mark that they supersede, and I'm just interested to see if they can elevate past that point with the floor of these guys.
Yeah, like that's like again, like I feel that's just the crux for me for this Brooklyn team. Like, without Simmons, I think they can still be they can be a pretty good team. Like, they can probably be fighting around the play-in, because I think they have too many good pieces that they are going to be like the Washington Wizards level bad. Like, that's at least that's what like the people are anticipating. Like, me personally,
maybe not that low, but yeah.
No, but like those guys are kind of like in purgatory a little bit at the moment, because obviously they're just coming off of trading like pretty much a whole culture shift.
Right.
You trade, you get two like future Hall of Famers out, and now you got a promising player in Bridges, and then you got like a project again, or like a rehabilitation project with Ben Simmons. And yeah, like just from what I've seen in preseason and stuff like that, and just at the point is that if Ben Simmons plays with a chip on his shoulder, I feel like this season will be very telling. If he's healthy, obviously that's the most important thing. But if he's healthy, and from what he says, he feels great, and how he compared to this season, going into this season from last year, it's night and day, he says. But I just think that Ben Simmons is going to be like the driving force of how good this team is going to be.
Yeah. He very well could be alongside Bridges and alongside.
Yeah, absolutely. He anchored a top 2 defense a couple years ago. Like, we just can't, like, I can't ignore that. Like, if that's him at his very best, like, this Brooklyn team can be very fun.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing I do think about Brooklyn is, like, even if they are a 36, 37, 38 win team, they're going to be such a pain in the ass. Like, they're going to be feisty as hell in a few of these games. So, like, that's just how they are. Like, that's just the collection of players they have. They have a collection of wings with Bridges, Johnson, again, Dorian Finney-Smith, Royce O'Neal, like guys who are multi-positional defenders, guys who can switch 1 through 5, or at least switch at least 3 or 4 positions with Nick Claxton. They don't have an incredibly deep front court, but they have guys that they can throw out there and stagger minutes between that would be that create impact on both ends of the floor, for lack of a better phrase. But any final thoughts?
I would say because pretty much for these, for a bold prediction, I would say that if Ben Simmons, I would say Ben Simmons will be an all-star this year.
Wow.
I will. That's gonna be my bold prediction. I was gonna say Brooklyn will have like a playoff spot, not be a play-in team, but that kind of just falls back on Ben Simmons being good. So I would say in my bold prediction for this Brooklyn Nets team is that Ben Simmons is gonna be an all-star.
Jeez. Okay. That did not see that coming.
You gotta be bold.
I see. I don't know if I have a very bold prediction. At least I can't top that.
All right. How about this? Do you think do you believe Mikal Bridges will be a 26 point per game scorer like we saw in that small sample size?
I think it's a possibility.
Okay.
I think it'll be like 24-25.
All right. So we got Mikal Bridges being a 25-point per game scorer for Brooklyn, and I have Ben Simmons being an all-star.
I think they just need an additional shot, like more shot creators.
Are you talking about like shot creators or like shot makers?
Shot creators.
Okay.
Like guys who I mean, not only can create their own shot, but guys who could put their teammates in a position to score and score with efficiency and like put them in favorable spots. Like guys, I'm trying to think of like names, but like they need more shot creators. Kind of like what Bridges is now, but like I guess if I'm
like
making
more like putting other guys in a better position to
like you want guys who are able to put themselves in good positions to score, but you also want guys who can put their teammates in also ideal situations to score. Like they need more shot creation there. And I think that like Bridges is maybe one of those guys. Maybe Simmons even becomes one of those guys, maybe just as not even like a self-creator, but a guy who can just set up his teammates. But I think they just need more of that. I think that's one of like their biggest flaws that they're missing right now outside of what they already have. Which I don't know if that's something they're gonna address anytime soon. Maybe it's something they do, maybe they don't. But I don't have any other final thoughts. Thank y'all for watching. Check out vendettasportsmedia.com, our NBA content. We have all of our season previews up on there. Check out our YouTube page where we'll have these video previews. Tell me why I'm dumb. Tell me why I'm smart. Tell us why we're dumb or smart, whatever the case is, and everything in between.
Tell me why Ben Simmons isn't going to be an all-star this year.
Tell Jiarmani why Ben Simmons isn't going to be an all-star this year. Thank y'all for watching. See y'all next time.